Okay, you can actually use jersey a little bit like elastic. So this is an example here. I've just done 2 samples at each end. So where you're just doing this piece, this cuff, is the same size pattern piece as the finish, and that just gives like a band, a section which you could use as a turn up, something like that. Alright, and then it's just overlocked together, double, that is seam eaten on the inside there. Whereas this one is used like a cuff, and you can see this is used like a piece of elastic and it's pulling it in. So when you sew this, you're actually stretching the cuff to fit. So when you put it on, so this is going to gather the fabric in, and these are 2 pieces of jersey, so any of your sweat tops, that's what they normally do, and they stretch them and sew them on the overlocker to fit at the same time, because the overlocker stitches stretch. So something you could consider with your trousers is a woven leg. If this was a leg piece and it's just inside out at the moment, so it's my seam there, but I want to use the cuff, an elastic cuff, as a way of gathering that in. But rather than doing it all in jersey fabric, actually using woven fabric at the same time as well. So I've got a piece of fabric here, a piece of jersey, and the jersey is smaller. Now you need to test your jersey. Obviously I've got that a strip, and that's my total trouser hem there, so it's got seam allowances on it. Your jersey stretches, so when you're working with jersey you need to understand stretch guides. So the easiest way for the percentages is to work out a 10 centimetre piece, and then from 10 centimetres anything extra, however much it stretches. So if you've got 10 centimetres there, however much extra it stretches from the 10 centimetres, every 1 centimetre it stretches is 10%. So this one will come out to like, it's got 30% stretch in it. So you need to know when you're working with your jersey how much stretch it's got in it. So what I've got is a piece here, and then this is my finish, my outside, and then that's the inside. So you need to know your leg measurement. So you're working on the cuff with the finish, how tight you want that to be on the ankle or the wrist, depending on your garment, and then that piece is stretched on to your woven or jersey piece here. So first of all, it needs to be double depth. So whatever your finish measurement's going to be, it needs to be double, so you need to make that as a consideration. And obviously that's then going to be a tube, so I need to then make sure that this, you can see it's quite a lot less, will be able to stretch on when I sew it, and then that gathers it back. So once I've made my calculations and done my pattern, you've got your whole, you'll leave it on the open, and you're going to join the seam right sides together on that shorter edge along here. So we're going to do that now. Okay, so just using the overlocker, right sides together, we're going to just join the edges. Now my pattern pieces have got just 1/4 inch seam allowance, so I'm not actually cutting anything off. You generally don't use pins when you're using the overlocker because you don't want to damage the blade. And then once you've got that joined, you'll then turn it so that you put wrong sides together, matching up the seams that you've just sewn, and that's what's going to give you that cuff. That's in half, match the 2 raw edges, and that's going to give you the cuff, and that's what's going to be then on that top edge stretched onto the trouser. Give that a press. Okay, now once you've got that, what you'll do is you need to just section it out. So whereas I've got this bit here, and that's my 2 edges, and they're folded wrong sides together, you just want to then work out excuse me, the halfway, and then you've got the halfway, the seam, and then the halfway side seam on your trouser, if you haven't already got a side seam there. So if there's a legging, you don't always have side seams, you might have a seam there, but it might not be in half, because obviously your front and your back, so always just work out where the halfway point is. And then again, this leg is inside out, So I'm going to put right sides together and pin the two bits of the band on here, and then stretch to fit. This is where you would have worked out all your calculations and made sure. So pin that one at that point there. Got the two side seams, and then you can see one is a lot smaller than the other, and you're going to stretch to fit it. So this is where you just want to pull it out and then line up the three raw edges. Jersey can be a bit curly, so it's good if you're going to pin it horizontally, and then each put a pin in all the way along. Obviously remember, if you're doing this on the overlocker, you've got to remove the pins way in advance, and then continue to pin that all the way round. You're stretching to fit, and you can do this onto, you can buy special ribbon fabric, so I'm just using a jersey, but you can buy special ribbon which stretches even more. And then you take it to the overlocker. Now I tend to put mine this way and pull it out so I can see what's going on with my stretching. As like I said, you don't want your pins in the way, so make sure they're removed before you put them in, and just make sure you uncurl that jersey when you're putting it in. Lift the foot up, line the blades up, and you're sewing through 3 layers of overlocking, but that's baggy there, so you're stretching it to fit as you sew. So as you're sewing it, you're stretching that cuff on, making sure all of those, and you're using the jersey effectively as a piece of elastic to pull it in. There's a lot of manipulation as you go, pulling it round and removing those pins. You might want to hold it behind. And then what you've got is you've got that, and it looks a bit wavy. And obviously the more you stretch this, so if you use the ribbon, you'll be able to use a smaller piece. So that's all neatened, and then it would press down. That's the inside of the garment. Obviously it's a double cuff that you've got on there. And then what that does is it enables you to look at a different tighter ankle cuff. You can go tighter or looser, and then when you give that a good press, it will shrink in. And obviously this is quite a heavy cotton I've got there, but you can see it's going to give you a nice pulled in ankle. You may need to be able to make sure that this is still able to stretch over the foot. Right, but that's just a different way of using your jersey and using it like a piece of elastic to make an alternative hem finish.